Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us here. We're going to get started in 2 minutes. We're just going to give a chance for folks to join, but we'll be getting started at 9:02. And hang tight. Thank you very much. For those of you just joining us now, we're going to get started at 9:02, just giving a chance for those to join that are joining just a bit late, getting started at 9:02. Thanks, everyone. For those who are just joining us, we'll get started in 30 seconds here, just giving a chance for others to join. Thanks for hanging tight. All right, we'll get started here. We're at 2 minutes after the hour. I just realized I kept on saying 9:02, but some of you might not be on the West Coast. So welcome to the webinar. And we have a great lineup here, great customer over at PlusUp with Patrick Tolan going to give us, James Wilcox going to give us a run through the demo of how they're running all of our different platforms and their use case over there. Ryan Lippert is going to walk us through Google, and Bertrand is going to walk us through Trifacta. And I'm Sean Spidiacci. I'll be your host here, Senior Product Marketing Manager at Fivetran. We have a great agenda. If I can move it along here. Here we go. We're going to start with just going over the basics of the modern data stack, what that is. Lippert will walk us through. Then James will share us the case study of how they're using it over there at PlusUp. And with that, I'll hand it over to Ryan.
Hey, thanks a lot, Sean. So as Sean mentioned, my name is Ryan Lippert. I'm a product manager over at Google Cloud, working in the data and analytics group specifically. And I think it's always great to start off a webinar with a little bit of a poll. So why don't we go ahead and jump into that and just see where folks are on their general cloud journey. It's always good to see. I think it's good for us to know, and then it's also good, I think, just for folks on the call to see where their peers are at as well. So we'll give everybody just a second to kind of say where they're at on this, and then just talk about it a little bit before jumping into some of the material. Cool. So it looks like what we've got for the most part is, I think that it's a blend, actually a pretty even blend across the board. So there's a lot of folks who are still on-prem, not quite in the cloud, about a fifth of attendees, 36% evaluating a cloud solution, maybe another third that's mostly cloud right now, and then about 10% that are going multi-cloud. And I think that what we'll see is just over time a natural progression from folks who are on-prem, but you want to make sure you're still utilizing those existing investments that you've got, to then moving to the cloud, evaluating those solutions. And then if we look at some of the analyst material out there, it says that in the not too distant future, it seems like most folks out there are actually going to be using multiple clouds. So it's definitely a spectrum, and it's most of all, it's just not a race. It's about what's right for your business at any given time. Go ahead to the next slide then, Sean, if you can. So when we think about cloud and we think about on-prem, one of the things that folks are typically thinking about is just what does data warehousing look like, and also what does business intelligence look like? And if we think about like kind of the canonical legacy data warehousing stack, if we look at it now in particular, there are some issues with that. It can be difficult to procure, it's hard to use, it's really heavy on maintenance. It's really difficult to actually expand as well. And when you think about your data warehouse, you have to expand the compute and the storage all at the same time. It makes it a little bit difficult. And that was really kind of what we saw back in maybe, let's say, the 90s. Go ahead, Sean, to the next slide. And what we're seeing is a natural progression. So when you think about back to the 90s, a lot of it was operational reporting. I always think about it as the executive gets a report on their desk. They kind of give it to some of the folks that work for them. And then from there, the organization does the best they can with those high level metrics. In the 2000s, we moved to more of a self-service BI model where folks who knew how and had access to the data warehouse could get in there and generate a little bit more reporting that was a little more contextual and relevant to what they were trying to do. And then in 2010s, that's where we really saw kind of the data lake movement, big data come around, and it was about data mining. But a lot of what happened with that data mining is that there was so much data to parse through that it was actually difficult to get to some of the insights. And that's where we're really seeing kind of what folks are moving towards now is a lot more AI and ML, because that makes it a lot easier to locate that needle in a haystack that can tell your business what it needs to do to be able to accelerate, what it needs to be able to do to better serve the customers and better develop products. And so that really leads us to kind of what I would say is more of a modern data stack. And so do you want to go to the next slide, Sean? And I think that that's a lot of what we'll be talking about today and what you'll hear from James and Bertrand and Sean and myself. And when we think about the modern data stack, it's really about software as a service, and it's a solution that's embedded in that. And that makes it easy to try, easy to buy. I think everyone on the call, maybe James accepted, likes the easy to buy part. But it's cloud native. The components are integrated. It makes it really easy to get going. And it makes it easy to get going fast. And then it's also cost effective. And if it's not cost effective, the barriers to switching are much lower than what they used to be in the past. And so the stack that we'll be talking about today, the specific version of the modern data stack, is a data pipeline brought to you by Fivetran, the data warehouse of BigQuery, Dataprep brought to you by Trifacta, and then BI with Data Studio. And so that's a little bit of an overview, a quick pull to get us going. And with that, I'd actually like to toss it over to James at PlusUp, who's going to give us the real meat of the presentation and actually give a customer example, so you don't just have to hear vendors drone on about things. So James, to you.
Cool. Hey guys, my name is James Wilcox. I'm a managed partner here at PlusUp. You can go to the next one over. So what we do is we are a social media marketing consultancy. Basically, we do paid media on social. We started really when machine learning was really picking up on social. We saw that the market was changing a lot. We didn't think that you need to build technology necessarily. You could run a lot of stuff through native platforms. So we have well-trained people that are really focused on building and running ads off the native platforms themselves. Our capabilities, we do paid media on Facebook, Google, all that kind of stuff. And we also do technical projects. So we really help do data analytics and things like that for our clients. And then we also help people do in-house conversion. So if people have a paid media team in-house, but they need certain support on things, we actually will support them there too. We've been doing paid media for a long time on Facebook. I've been doing it since 08. I guess here it says 2010. So patting myself a little here. So we've been doing it for a very long time, and our customers are all over the place. We work with Fortune 500 companies. We also have like more small and growth businesses. So the challenge that we kind of had was when we were doing analysis on, obviously we do a ton of analysis within the media space. We're doing all of it manually, and this was about 4 years ago. And you're exporting everything out of the platforms, you're doing everything in Excel, and it's just a manual, time-consuming process. And with any manual, time-consuming process, it creates a lot of errors. So we were looking for ways to automate a lot of the stuff. Within all that time, there's also a lot of all this energy that's being put into like doing pivot tables and trying to get everything organized. It takes away from the time that people are actually doing to do the analysis. So we really wanted to have all the stuff done, so then therefore we could actually just do the analysis and focus our time on that. And in the end, we were a young business and we were wanting to grow. So we knew that we needed something that we could actually automate so we could scale it. To hire people in order to do pivot tables and organize all the data, it just doesn't scale in the long run. And really what we want to focus on was hiring people that were able to do better analysis. So when we looked at it, we kind of had the question of, we had two options. We could go get something that's already built and out of the box. There's a lot of vendors out there that will provide you a full analytics suite right there that you click in and just do it and it just pops out. But the problem that we had with that was there was a lot of things we couldn't do within it. We couldn't do a lot of some of the tagging we wanted to do. There was just a lot of the organization. We were very limited by the things that the way they set their data up, and we just wanted to make it so it was more flexible so we could do more interesting analysis. So we set out to build it ourselves. And the way we did it, we knew we needed 4 things. We needed data ingestion, we needed data prep and cleaning, data warehousing, and data visualization. We knew that this, if going across the whole stack, was the only way to really make it so we could do this efficiently. And you know, we also wanted how to do it cost effectively. We were a small business that we didn't have tens of thousands of dollars dedicated to us. We had clients that were growing and contracting, so we wanted something that was scalable. So that's where we kind of turned to the solution that we have. So first one, when we went for data ingestion, we really looked at Fivetran, and the reason we did Fivetran, it was actually very easy to implement. It did all the connectors we needed. So we work across social media platforms, Facebook, Pinterest, Snapchat, and all those areas, they had the solutions we needed. We also needed things that were in the analytics space, like Google Analytics. So this gave us all the things we needed. And the beauty of it was we didn't have to go to Facebook to get an API partnership, and we could just click in, and within minutes, we were able to start exporting stuff out to BigQuery. One of the beauties of Fivetran too is the tables are actually, like, there's other solutions that will actually do a lot more formatting for you. So when Facebook sends out the tables, you know, there's other services that'll try to blend it all together for you. But what we found is there was a lot of instability in that. We had outages, we used other providers, and they were down for weeks at a time, and we can't have that in our business. So one of the beauties of Fivetran was that they actually gave the tables more raw in how they come out of the APIs, but that made it far more stable. It also allowed us to do a lot more interesting things because we had access to all the data there. And the best part of all this is we don't have to manage any APIs. So if there's one thing I've learned about the Facebook APIs, it constantly changes. And I've known that from previous businesses, and it's like the thought of getting if I was going to do it myself, to get developers and do all, it would just be so much work. This makes it super easy, click in, and it gets everything we need. So once the data gets out, though, we needed a way to prep it, and we needed a way to clean it. So we also have other areas where we have data that we need to bring in. So whether it was some tagging stuff we want to do, or clients' other data, some of it was first-party data that they had. The beauty with Trifecta was it actually made it very easy for us to clean, join, merge data. We've used Trifecta for about 4 years now, and part of the beauty of it is that it's very intuitive to use. We have people that don't know how to write a line of SQL who are able to prep data at a pretty large scale, all because the user interface is so easy to use. And so it also made it very quick. We don't write big lines of SQL. We literally can do everything within Trifecta to clean and prep the data. And then also on top of that, it allows us to schedule everything so things can just run when we're, in the middle of the night. We're having to get data every single day and get it updated and cleaned, and therefore it allowed it very easy to do that. Along with some of the stuff, and the beauty of it being part of Google is we're able to bring in stuff from things like Google Sheets. So we actually do a lot of merge of data within it just to make it so it's very effective to have all the data and create really interesting views of our data. So we moved to BigQuery too. Obviously, BigQuery was a very simple thing for us because Trifecta was already part of it. We actually was working with Trifecta first, and then we worked and actually built out the whole platform with them, or not with them, but we noticed that BigQuery was integrated, so it was a natural fit. It was very easy to use, to be honest. We hadn't done much in the cloud prior to even doing any of this, and we were able to kind of learn it all myself. I've never worked in data warehousing, and I was able to very quickly get all this up. It was very intuitive to use. It's very low cost, which is also always a helpful thing. But the integration also with the data visualization, with cloud data prep, and then also into Fivetran just made it so seamless that we were able to build this with limited experience, but then and make it very effective for what we needed to do. And lastly, Data Studio. We looked at a lot of options when it came to data visualization, but we actually just went with Data Studio. First of all, it's free, which is effective. It makes it, especially when you're kind of growing. But it also the integration. There's been a lot of progression with it. Even a lot of the acceleration that they do with BigQuery to actually tie into Data Studio is very helpful. And we've been able to kind of leverage it. Now, at one point, we might look to go to something more like Looker, something that might have more, but this has been very effective to us to date. Oh, and one other thing, the beauty of Data Studio was the permissions. Like we share a lot of data from clients that it's one of our biggest fears when we start doing all this is how do we securely share the data? One of the nice things is with Google logins, everyone has one really. So we are able to, you're leveraging that. It makes permissions very easy and very secure. So I'm going to just show you guys just one use case of what we have that kind of walks you through everything that we've done and how we do it. We're going to show you just the end result, but just to talk through it. So we have a client who has a lot of, like they have a lot of agents. So there's 7,000 agents, and within that, they, oh, sorry, there's still people. So, so there's they 52 ad accounts. Sorry, is there some feedback there? Okay.
Bertrand, Ryan, make sure that you're muted just to be sure.
Yeah, I had some sound issues. Sorry, guys.
Oh, it's all good. I thought it was my phone. I was like, where was all this? All right, so let's talk to this a little more. So the client that we have has, we're across 52 ad accounts. So it's an incredible amount. To get it out of Facebook would just be really, really difficult. And it's across 7,000 agents. And we have Excel files that have data that we need to merge with it, that I'll show you kind of some of the examples of the data that we have to bring in. But we also have Google Sheets data that we need to bring in because there's more stuff that needs to be updated in real time. So we use Fivetran to get all this data into BigQuery. And then from there, what we'll do is we take Dataprep to ultimately merge all that together. So we'll actually take it, so we do all the joining of the tables, we clean stuff, we actually add a lot to it. So one of the nice things about Dataprep too is there's some functions that will add things like weeks and days and things where, because we're getting everything on a daily basis from the reporting, but it's really nice to be able to add extra fields to it. We even add other stuff to it, like we have it so we can actually click through to add accounts. We do a lot of different stuff in the Dataprep that makes it very efficient for our clients to do it. We'll also do basic cleaning too if there's any kind of mistakes or things like that that need to be cleaned up. We store all of it in BigQuery, and then from there we visualize it in Google Data Studio. So what I want to do is I want to show you just the report and kind of what end result of what we end up with. All right, you guys see it? Cool. So this is just a Google Data Studio report that we have here. As you can see, it's updated daily, so all the data comes in. This is Facebook ad reporting data. But just I want to show you some of the stuff. Like this is the kind of level of what we can bring in. So a lot of this stuff, so like the states that they're in, their goals, this stuff is all in an Excel sheet. So this is actually brought in and merged together with the ads data through Cloud Dataprep in order so we can actually see what the goal is and what we're actually hitting. So what our actual CPCs are. So again, like if I was going to build this report by myself, I mean, first of all, I don't know if I could ever do it. It would take me hours, 5 hours a day to do it. But every morning when we walk up, I don't walk into my office, but every morning when we wake up, it's prepared and ready for us to go through. We also have things in here like these status notes. So we need to know when certain agents are ended. This is actually in a Google Sheet. So we couldn't put this in the Excel sheet because it was just too hard to update. So we actually put it into a Google Sheet, which then we also bring into BigQuery, which then also gets into Dataprep, and then we merge it all together. So, you know, it's something like this. This report is very custom built. This is something that if I went to go look to something out of the box, it would cost me a ton of money for someone to build. But we were able to build this bespoke, just leveraging the tools that are available within Google Cloud and the partnerships that they have. So in general, it's a great report, and honestly, it's very cost efficient to run too. So it's something that makes it so in general, we can do something that's very unique to us and very powerful, but also, you know, do it at a thing that makes sense. So and this was actually built by somebody that actually didn't know how to do SQL too. So it shows you that the level of what you can build with a relative low barrier of knowledge on some of the stuff using these tools. So I'm going to pass this back to Sean. So in the end, I mean, it took us a while to piece all these things together and get to where we are, but we have found huge improvements in efficiency. We've been able to build analytics that are very unique to us. It creates a one-stop shop at Google, which makes it very easy when you can just go to one place and have everything kind of done. And ultimately, it's helped us scale our business. The analysis that we can do and the depth that we can do it is at a level that you couldn't find within the native platforms. And if we got out of the box, there's just things we would never been able to do. So it's been a huge benefit to us, but at the same time, it's allowed us to scale our business even farther.
Ryan,
Terrific.
this
Hey,
is you
James.
again.
Yeah, James, thanks a lot. I think that you probably went through things and described our products better than we ever could. But I think what we can do now is just do a little bit of a double click. And James, just thanks once again for kind of walking through things there. So Sean, if we go to the next slide, I'll talk just a little bit about BigQuery and some of what makes this a unique data warehouse. As James mentioned, it's easy to use, it's a low barrier to entry, and it's also low from a cost perspective as well, which is always nice. But there's some other things that make it pretty unique. It's a serverless platform, which means it scales as you need it to. So as you bring data to it, it's easy to scale. As you need to do SQL queries on it and actually use it to do any kind of analysis, it's also able to scale. And that makes it a lot faster to use. It makes it easier to use. And it means that you don't need the operations on the backside of things to be managing as well. It can give you real-time insights. It can give insights for everyone as well. So what that means is it's really easy, whether you're building data studio type dashboards like James did, or you have an army of data analysts who are kind of coming after this data to try to understand it. It can scale up to be able to handle that. And then one of the really interesting things that I think about it is that it also has built-in machine learning, and it has that through simple SQL. And so maybe we could just take a little double click on that on the next slide. So when we think about BigQuery, one of the things that it really can do, and you heard this from James as well, is that it really breaks down data silos in particular. I mentioned at the top of the webinar that it separates compute and storage. And what that allows you to do is almost maybe build a structured type data lake within the data warehouse and bring more data than there was before. And so Fivetran is a terrific partner for being able to help bring in that data. If you can't find what you're looking for within Google Cloud, we can bring in all types of data. I think Facebook data, as James was mentioning, is something that we can really get done with Fivetran pretty well. And then James also mentioned the different Google sources that you can bring in, whether that's ad data, data from Google Sheets, wherever it might be from. And then we've got great partners like Trifacta as well to help you then cleanse and wrangle that data once you've landed it, and then maybe move it from one type of zone to the other. But then once you've got that data in BigQuery, one of the really interesting things you can do is go after it with machine learning models. And so I'm not going to get into, logistic regression versus XGBoost or what k-means clustering is. But what you can think is that all of these models are available to you with easy guides on how to use them. And out of these models, you can get things like recommendations, segmentation, anomaly detection, and forecasting and prediction. And when you think about these use case areas, really anything that you're doing from an analytics perspective is a matter of taking, for the most part, these different types of use cases and then either stacking them on each other or applying them in an industry context. And we allow you to do that rather than with data scientists. We offer tools for that as well. But you can get the data analysts after it, which is really interesting. And you can even then start to visualize some of the machine learning that you're doing. Now, when it comes to visualization, Sean, let's go to the next slide, and then we can talk through that a little bit. So James has had great success with Data Studio. It's easy to connect things. Mentioned not even any SQL experience on the person building the dashboards there. It's easy to visualize. It's easy to share. As James mentioned, just about everyone's got a Google login out there. And so it's easy to get this data in the hands of folks. And it's also nice that it's free too. Now, when you look at a tool like Looker, a newer member to our family, but definitely not new to Google Cloud. We've been working with them for years now. It's a different type of platform. So not only is it going to be able to give you the integrated insights and the business intelligence dashboarding that folks are looking for, but it's also going to be able to give you data-driven workflows so that you can start to actually embed data into the workflows that you have from an organizational perspective. And then you can drive custom applications off of it as well. So we've got some interesting customers who've been doing work with those custom apps straight out of Looker on top of BigQuery. And so that's really an interesting angle for developers and application developers in particular. So that's a good view of our data stack. And I think I mentioned in that that Trifacta is a fantastic partner with what they can do with Dataprep in particular. And so I think with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand things over to Bertrand to take you through Trifacta and what they're particularly doing within this stack.
Thanks, Ryan. Can you hear me, guys? Everyone? Yeah, cool. Yeah. In fact, before I go into the details of what Trifecta Cloud Dataprep does, I've got another polling questions for everyone here. First question was about your cloud journey. Now it's more about your self-service journey, analytic journey. So self-service meaning how much data is democratized to your business teams and how much people can access data by themselves and wrangle and prepare their data for analytics. Let's see about the results. Okay, so that's funny. We see that a lot of people don't get self-service analytics yet. I'll talk about it, at least one component of it. Noticing some initial pocket. Again, that is pretty even between people already advanced on the journey and people now. I see 41% really moving toward self-service and also already contemplating a full pivot to self-service. And I believe very often self-service comes with cloud. So let me talk about, on the next slide, a little bit about Trifecta. And to start with, like a quote from a well-known, renowned data scientist, DJ Patil, who is the former chief data scientist at the US government. And like, it's pretty well known also from our customers that 70 to 90% of the work of an analytic initiative is to clean, combine, structure the data so it becomes meaningful for analytics or ML and AI. If you click the animated slide, Sean. So what is data preparation? Data preparation is to access data, and it's why we're partnering so well with Fivetran. We need to bring that data in the cloud. As soon as the data is in the cloud, it's easier to access it. But however, if it's a database, if it's Facebook, if it's a file, if it's an application such as Salesforce, there's still like different standards between all these systems, and you need to clean the data. So first discover what is the data in hand, and then structure the data, combine the data and clean them together, and then validate that the transformation you're applying to your data is correct for your analytics. Because without correct data, your analytics would have it's like dirty data in, and you'll get also dirty analytics. So all the work of Cloud Dataprep and Trifecta in general is to provide a user interface that is for data engineers, but also that could be used by analysts. And as James was mentioning, he was not a data warehouse guy. You don't need to know SQL, but you can really analyze, structure, combine various data sets, even if you're not a technical user. And then this data can be loaded into BigQuery or other system for analytics and ML, AI initiatives. So if you click to next slide, so who is the Trifecta as a company? Sean, can you click? Yeah, perfect. So as a company, Trifecta has been partnering with Google since 2017. So Cloud Dataprep is the offer from Trifecta that runs on the Google Cloud. It's totally native to Google Cloud. So if you go to the Google console, you'll see Dataprep as one of the serverless solution that is offered through the Google console. We've got more than 5,000 companies using our technology and more than 100,000 users. You can see a few of the logos. It goes from startups to very large companies that would be using our technology. We've got more than 10 million jobs that people run in the cloud to clean and structure that data. And data preparation as a market, Trifecta has been ranked #1 by G2 customer review, Gartner reviews, but also analysts like Forrester and Dresner for the last 5 years. And as I mentioned previously, Trifecta powers the data prep solution that Google Cloud distributes. But also we have like other partnership like IBM as a data prep solution, and it's also powered by Trifecta. So that's it, just so you understand what Trifecta is and our solution, and I'll hand it over to Sean.
Sorry, finding the unmute button there. Yeah, thanks for that, Bertrand. That was fantastic. And James, thanks again for your overview of your use case. This is really fantastic. And I'll finish out here just going over the highlights of Fivetran. So if I could move the slide, there we go. And we'll start with a polling question as we've been doing before. So Annie, let's throw that up. So we're going to ask, how do you handle data ingestion today? And thanks for participating all. Now let's see these results. Yeah, as expected, most folks are manually building and maintaining data pipelines. That tends to be the usual case. Good to see some folks using Fivetran, and then using another vendor for data pipelines. So generally, there's between manually building and using another vendor in Fivetran's world, that's kind of almost the same because you're manually building those pipelines and you have to actually manage it in a GUI tool of some kind. If anything changes, it's not the automated nature of Fivetran, but we'll go into what I mean there in just a second. So with Fivetran, we're automating data integration, and we're taking that word automation to a different degree than what folks might generally think about. When you think about automating a data pipeline, you're thinking, well, I'm not manually uploading something and then having to pull it in and push a, write that code myself. No, we're talking about ready to connect connectors with over 150 pre-built connectors. All you're doing is either OAuthing into the service as you would with a Facebook, and then connecting directly to your warehouse as you would a BigQuery. And then as soon as you set that up once, you set it up and you forget it. And then as James pointed out earlier, we are loading in the data in a predefined schema. So it's ready to analyze for that, and it's continuously syncing as it's up to date. So, and if there are any changes to the API, which with things like Facebook, there quite often are, we will automatically push that migration of the schema to the source, to the destination in BigQuery. So you don't actually have to do that. It's truly automated. Once you set it up, you no longer have to think about it. And that's that dynamically adapting to those schema changes and API changes. So let's say there's a type change, let's say there's a new addition of a field, all of those things will be pushed over into the destination, which in this case is BigQuery. And so what you see here is we're taking, just for a visualization of it all, 150 different sources. It goes through the core platform of Fivetran, where we do some light transformations where we're able to pull that into BigQuery. And then you could use all those different cool use cases that Ryan didn't get into with k-means and all that good stuff, regressions, AI, ML, internal analytics. There's lots of different things that you could use, but the important piece here is that you're no longer having to focus on manually building those pipelines, and that you can focus on actually just building those dashboards, whether it's a data studio or a looker, using the data that we feed into the destination, because it's constantly usable and always up to date and managed for you, and in a truly automated fashion. And really what we're talking about here is over 1,000 customers using our platform. We're syncing over 2 trillion rows a month at this point. Kind of an insane amount of numbers if I think about it. And Deloitte, recognized us as a top growing company, as well as a Y Combinator top companies list and best place to work. I agree. And we are located all over the world, and customer choice insights from Gartner. Just in terms of that recognition, lots of folks are starting to, it's actually a great website if you've ever used it. It's kind of like G2 Crowd, but it's run by Gartner, and great ratings with over 100 different reviews. And then there's a list of our customers there. And with that, we'll conclude and talk about some takeaways. Just in terms of PlusUp, James, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we worked on these slides together. So there were some improved efficiencies and accuracies that you had a 90% reduced time in getting those efficiencies and accuracies up, and the scale of business, you are just simply able to automate and reuse, ensure accuracy and better recommendations, all using a modern data stack, Google Cloud for BigQuery, Data Studio, and Cloud Dataprep, the all-in-one stop shop, and then you have Fivetran via the GCP marketplace. You could easily procure Fivetran today through the marketplace, and we're happy to help you take that away. And with that, we'll do some Q&A. And don't forget, if you just right here on the right side, if you'd like to start with Cloud Data Prep, there's a great link here, and there you could sign up for Fivetran as well as staying in tune for the Google Next Cloud On Air Analytics Weeks. They have a great lineup of events next week. All right, looking for some questions. So Ryan, how is BigQuery different from other data warehouses available from public cloud vendors?
Yeah, great question. I think that one of the big differences, well, I guess I'll cover two big differences. One is that separation of compute and storage. So that really is, I think, a bit of a game changer. And it's a lot of what allows us to do some of the kind of the differentiated functions within the data warehouse and within BigQuery. I think the other thing that you just recently would have seen, or you'll definitely hear about it if you tune into Google Next Cloud On Air next week, if I could plug that again. But one of the things that we're doing is we're also looking to go multi-cloud with that now. So we had Thomas Kurian as part of kicking off kind of the broader programming for Google Cloud Next that's now moved to a digital format. We are now doing multi-cloud with BigQuery so that you'll be able to, from the BigQuery UI, query against clusters that are in other clouds. And that's really pretty unique for us.
Fantastic. And Bertrand, what forms of data validation do you provide? How does that work? And James, I don't know if you could give insight there as well, but how are you using the different types of data validations? And we'll start with Bertrand. You're muted right now.
Yeah, let me unmute. Should be unmuted. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I can start with generic validation rules, and maybe James, you can chime in with like specific you're doing. But the first thing that we look at is data types, verifying that dates are correctly formed, for example, looking at empty values, outliers, looking at value distribution across for one attribute. And then also, so first it's like to provide to the user like an overview, an assessment of the data quality issues you may encounter. And then you can define any type of data quality rules to standardize your data, like having the same value in one column, or making sure like splitting attributes like addresses. So then you can apply like any type of data transformation on your data. James?
Yeah, and from our side, I mean, a lot of the tagging we do when it comes down to specific ads is done manually. So there's always a lot of errors. There's a lot of great visualizations within Dataprep to actually show where there might be errors. And then when there's a lot of tools that will make it very easy to automate, whether it's like, it's very specific, or if you're looking for something that's a little bit more like general, to actually identify and ultimately replace those values and make it so everything lines up.
And then finally, I got a question here around how we support connectors not in the Fivetran directory. And the simple answer is we actually have Cloud Function connectors, and we have a great Google Cloud Function connector that you could use. And what you're doing is you're actually writing that Cloud Function to operate and pull the data from whatever we don't support today. And there's a few benefits to that. And one is that we're reading the data. This is how we're going to be reading that source API, so you're trying to get from the data. We process that data so that way you're able to, we're able to see what's updated, what needs to be updated versus what needs to be inserted. And it recognizes a new column or new tables, things like that, things that you're used to with a supported connector. And then we also obviously have a data writer. So with connections to BigQuery and other providers, we are taking that output and through our core processor and loading it into the final destination. So there's a lot of benefits that you no longer have to do and figure out if you were to build that yourself, if you could do it through our Cloud Functions connector. But generally, with over 150 different connections, we should have a supported version of what you have today. And if you don't, please make a request through your account management team. We're always taking requests. And so that way we can continuously build these connectors and support even more sources along the way. And a new question for apparently Bertrand and I, can Fivetran stream data directly into Trifacta, or does it require staging the data first? I'll just take that real quick. Fivetran doesn't actually load directly into anything other than a data destination, like a warehouse like BigQuery, Snowflake, so on. So you would have to load that directly into a data warehouse before getting it into Trifacta, but from there, Trifacta can take it away.
Yeah, that is correct.
All right, and I think that might be it. Annie is our hosting on the back end, but I think we're done with questions for the day, and we'll call it. And thank you everyone for joining. This has been fantastic. James, thanks you for sharing. Bertrand and Ryan, thank you for being here.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, James. Have a good day. Bye.